is the 77 WABC minicast.
KT McFarland, one of our favorite guests. I really mean that. Every Friday she's here. She calls in like a half hour early just to listen. That's how much she loves the show. I love that about her. KT, good Friday morning. How are you?
I'm terrific. That was a great interview you just had with Brian Kilmeade, and he laid out the case extremely well, why we, in fact, are winning the Iran war.
Oh, I'm glad you heard it. I'm glad you said that. And for folks who may have missed it, and you become really our go-to person when it comes to these foreign affairs, what exactly did Brian Kilmeade say that you agree with that shows that President Trump is winning and winning big?
Well, he talked about all the things that have been destroyed. You know, the percentage of we've destroyed, you know, and you go down the litany of what we've destroyed. I mean, their Navy, their Air Force, their command and control centers, the top-tier leadership. We've also destroyed a lot of their means of production. In other words, they can't make more missiles. They can't make more drones. And then he also talked about the Strait of Hormuz, that once it's open, there are thousands of ships almost like queued up in a line to get through the Persian Gulf, the Strait of Hormuz, to take their oil around the world. And that what that will do will immediately bring the price of oil down. The only thing that I guess I would add to what he said is I think this is going to be determined within 2 months, one way or another. Whether President Trump decides to walk away, I don't think he's going to walk away. I don't think there's a chance he's walking away.
Well, you know, the other Arab states are on record saying they'd be very upset if he did walk away. And you know, Bibi Netanyahu and Israel, regardless of what Trump does, they're not going to stop until they get what they believe is total victory. So I don't believe Trump can walk away even if he wants to because of world pressures. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and here's the thing that, again, we're saying this so casually that, well, the Gulf Arab states, the UAE, et cetera, and Israel, who would have thought a year ago, 6 months ago, that you would see a military and security coalition between the United States, Israel, and now the Gulf Arab states? That's a stunning change in, 1,000 years of world history, that you now have a very different power center in the Middle East because it's the Jews and the Arabs are together fighting on each other's side to defeat Iran, and not to defeat Iran, but to defeat the regime in Iran.
But where'd you get, KT McFarland, where'd you get the 2 months from, though? Why 2 months?
Because I think what Brian said, we're bringing the 82nd Airborne, we're bringing a Marine amphibious unit into the region, so that gives us about 5,000. And these are rapid, storm the beaches, get the job done, come back out forces. And then we're backing them up with potentially more. That the time, you can't leave that number of troops sort of floating around for long.
Yeah.
And they'll be, so I think that Brian's right. Why are we sending troops? We're not doing boots on the ground. We're not going to do an
Well, when you say that, but I did hear, was it Kennedy? Somebody who's very pro-Trump, very pro-Iran war, like us, said that they're not as confident as you are about no troops on the ground, and made the point that while they were okay with President Trump starting this war without congressional approval, he's got the authority to do that.
Yes.
That if he does want to put boots on the ground, he better come to us first.
And there's a 60-day limit, and that's one of the reasons that I would say President Trump is going to wind this up one way or another, because he doesn't want to have that fight in Congress. The Democrats will all vote against him no matter what, and he doesn't want to have to deal with that. I think that what Brian is right. We need to, if our main objective here, our main number one goal in this war is to destroy their nuclear weapons capability and their missile capability. They have highly enriched uranium. We're not exactly sure where it is. We think we've destroyed it, but you want to have confirmation. You want to have proof of death. Proof of life, proof of death. You want to make sure that that's gone. And the only way you're going to do that is to actually get in on the ground. Now, does Israel do it? I'm sure. Does the United States do it? We're going to want pictures of the fact that it's gone. And then the second part of it is what happens in the Strait of Hormuz. And it already looks like the coalition of people of countries which are negotiating on our behalf, or the middleman negotiators, Pakistan, et cetera, that once the strait is open, that we, the United States alone, will not necessarily have to patrol and keep it open.
Right.
That will be other countries that are joining in, regional countries.
Right. I mean, you do need boots on the ground eventually just to go in and figure out exactly what we did. Like we can't see all that, but when I say troops on the ground, we don't need our kids fighting. No. You got to put them there to take a look at the damage, see what we did.
Get 'em out.
Right, exactly. But nobody wants any of these kids fighting in Iran. No way. That would be a death knell for Trump. You can kiss the midterms goodbye. Kiss those goodbye. Before I even get to that, though, I was talking to Johnny Daniels a couple days ago. Terrific guy. I love him. And he spends his time between Israel and London. I'm sure you follow him on Instagram. If you don't, you should, KT. The guy gets information before Bibi does. I don't know how he does it, but he does. And, the American effort may end before the Israeli effort, or the Israeli effort may end before the American effort. I know that somebody reported this week that Trump always yells at Bibi, and who cares? My God, even if it's true, who cares? They respect each other. They love each other. They're trying to win this thing together, but they're not on the same timeline. Is that fair to say?
Yes, and I do think that there's a point at which Israel, I think we have the same mission, we have the same goal. Which country is going to pay the same price? And Israel is going to pay the price. We all know that. Even a few leftover missiles. And what Brian was saying, if you look at the number of missile attacks they've gone from, high numbers, 1,000 a day to like 12 a day, I think that they're saving like a grand finale of missiles because they know they can't make them anymore. They can't replenish and replace what they're already expending. If the United States and Israel have down the road a different series of objectives, if Trump and Bibi are yelling at each other, I'm not really. I want to win this war now. I'm not going to look at 6 months, 9 months, 12 months from now. And right now, the president has been quite clear about his objectives. No nuclear weapons, no missiles capable of reaching the United States, and no terrorist proxies killing our people. Now, in addition to that, the Strait of Hormuz is another goal. But remember, it's not our ships in the Strait of Hormuz. That's not our trade. That's Europe, Middle East, Asia. That's where those ships are going to and from. Yep. And the irony of all of this is the Europeans especially, who are so critical, President Trump, you started this terrible war, you're losing this war, whatever they're saying. I almost wonder, do you guys understand how you have disarmed yourselves, intentionally, disarmed? You have taken away your economic power. You've done everything wrong. You have no energy. You have no military. You have no industry. And you've done it intentionally. And now you expect the United States to protect you when you can't even protect yourself. You can't even keep open the most vital shipping lane that you have.
Not going to happen. Starmer is a traitor. Macron is a traitor. Germany, they're no good either. And, even if they try to do something now, Trump has said time and time again, it's way too late. And what we've known now is that Europe, and we've known this for a long time, and Trump talked about this even back in 2016 when he said, enough of this NATO stuff, we're not going to pay your bills anymore, you pay. Europe as a whole, they're a bunch of cowards and traitors. That's it.
I remember meeting with my German counterpart the first week of President Trump's term at President Trump's direction. He told me to do it. And I said, look, we expect you to ante up 2% of your GNP towards defense. And you know what the guy said to me? Oh, you're so naive. How unrealistic.
I know.
They were so used to ripping us off that they didn't even think and contemplate. And they all assumed, Trump will just wait him out, then we'll get back to the kind of people we like. The Joe Bidens of the world, the Barack Obamas of the world. Yeah. And now I think that's part of their attitude again, but they're wrong. He will have remade the world by the time he finishes this term.
And then he's going to be done. What a horrible day for our country and the world. Cuba, what's going on there, KT?
What's going on in Cuba is the same. It's a Iran story. It's a Venezuela story in the sense that we're working towards a different relationship with different people. But it's a different story of how we're doing it. So Marco Rubio, Cuban immigrant parents, fled Cuba. Marco Rubio grew up speaking Spanish with a Cuban accent. He has long studied. He probably knows more about Cuba than anybody else in Washington. And he knows where the pressure points are, where the pressure points are not. Now, the government of Cuba is saying, like the government of Iran, we're not negotiating. We're having nothing to do with evil America. But Marco Rubio, in fact, is negotiating, as are other people, soft negotiations, third party, through somebody else. But we are talking to the younger generation of Cubans, apparently very well sourced, that Marco Rubio has been talking to the grandson of Raul Castro.
Mm-hmm.
So of the royal, it could be equivalent of the royal family of Cuba, who has no official position in government, but is talking to him. And someone said that listening to the two of them is in Cuban Spanish is like listening to two boys in Hialeah talking to each other. They get along well, and they have a future, and it's going to be a prosperous economic future for Cuba.
LifeLock, how can I help?
The IRS said I filed my return,
but I haven't.
1 in 4 tax-paying Americans has paid the price of identity fraud.
What do I do?
My refund, though.
I'm freaking out.
Don't worry, I can fix this.
LifeLock fixes identity theft guaranteed and gets your money back with up to $3 million in coverage.
I'm so relieved.
No problem. I'll be with you every step of the way.
1 in 4 was a fraud-paying American. Not anymore. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.